Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guests today are Brian Merrick, the Director of Cloud Program Management Office at the State Department, Rocky Campione, the Chief Information Officer at the Department of Energy. Jamie Holcomb is the Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, Troy Massey, Director of Enterprise Engagements at Iron Bow Technologies, and Melvin Greer, the Chief Data Scientist of the Americas at Intel Corporation. Good to have you all along this morning. And we're going to talk about cloud and applications and the architecture and how this is all best set up in the environment we're living in these days. The cloud smart strategy has taken hold across the government. And so that's really gotten questions out of how to position your applications, where to position your data, and so on for performance and for redundancy and all those good things. So why don't we start with the government people? Maybe we'll start with you, Rocky, and simply tell us how you are getting to the cloud smart strategy and some of the steps you're taking technically with applications, data, and all of that. Rocky?
Yeah, no, thanks, Tom. Yeah, Department of Energy, we have been moving to the cloud for years. Starting, I want to say back in 2009, one of our national labs, I think, was the first to go to Google for G Suite. But over the years, we've moved a number of other applications into the Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and other environments. With the national lab system that all kind of runs independently, everyone's taking a little different approach, but holistically what we want to look at is what makes sense to put there, what timing makes sense to move things there. So if we just updated something on premises a year ago and we have brand new systems, maybe we can wait a little longer. If we're at end of life on a system, we can kind of schedule going faster. We're also looking, we're starting the app rationalization process to understand what is cloud ready and what is not, so that we can, as we start moving things at headquarters into a AWS environment and a Microsoft environment, we can maybe get ahead of the game looking at other applications that we want to move in the future so that they're cloud ready when it's time to go. But a lot of it is looking at what's the security posture, where is that application or that service in the life cycle, and then moving it in a coordinated way, hopefully kind of minimize disruption and to maximize the benefit of the cloud.
Sure, and just a quick question on those that may not be cloud ready. Can applications with time be made cloud ready, or do you have to just retire some applications, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, that's the easy answer, right? It's both. Most of some applications are very easy to make cloud ready. Some might take a little bit more effort. So it may even be, you may just decide, hey, let's retire that and build something new. For the most part, it's with a little recoding, a little refactoring,
Sure.
but we can get them there.
And when you do develop them for the cloud in the first place, then you do it in the sense that they shall be virtualized from the outset so that they can be much more portable loads regardless of where they run.
Absolutely. We do a lot of kind of just moving it infrastructure as a service. We want to get away from that. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. Using the kind of with the platform as a service, the technologies and the capabilities that are inherent to the different cloud environments. And that's some of what we look at too. What is each cloud environment, and I don't want to get into which one does what better, but each cloud environment, and again, we usually talk about, I'd say the big three, though it's not exclusive to the big three, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. They each have built-in capabilities that might make an application better. Work better in that area, or if you're building it from scratch, it might be better to build it in one cloud versus the other. But
all right.
But yeah, building it cloud ready from the start or in the cloud is even better than an on-premises moving it.
And Brian Merrick of State Department, you're the cloud program management guy. You must have a pretty good handle on getting ready for this whole hyper-converged and portable workload type of idea.
Right. So as you can imagine, we have a very complex business environment. It's really federated from an IT standpoint. We have 38 different bureaus that, for the most part, do completely disparate business functions. And we have posts in 275 locations around the world. Our user base is over 100,000 folks. So we pretty much have to run the gamut of security risk categorizations, system capabilities, geographic impacts, risk, and business needs. And so what we've really done from a Cloud Smart standpoint is really allowed the mission space, the business units, to drive where they focus modernization first. Obviously, there's a finite amount of resources out there. And so what we found is that generally, our mission areas that require real-time processing, that need to be able to share data quickly and ubiquitously across a large user base are generally the first to adopt cloud. And as many other agencies, we've been in the cloud for years. What we're really doing now is we're trying to rationalize the platform strategy around it. So, in a nutshell, what we're really trying to do is minimize the number of cloud platforms that we're using, not by vendor, but by providing an enterprise platform that our business units can leverage, so they don't have to duplicate the infrastructure costs, and then allowing as many applications as are needed to meet the business need to reside on those platforms, really owned and managed and operated by the business units themselves, and they have their own federated IT folks. So the idea is that we want to push the ownership of the application layer as close to the decision points around the business outcomes as possible, while abstracting the infrastructure and security costs and centralizing that piece of it as much as possible. So it really becomes a win-win for the enterprise. And that's really the approach we're taking. We definitely have, as many others, have a multi-cloud approach from a vendor standpoint. It's critical that we use the right tool for the right job. We try to encourage folks to look at SaaS and PaaS options first. Certainly, there are some folks that need to lift and shift their applications into an IaaS environment. Perhaps their infrastructure is at end of life, or there are other exigent circumstances. But in general, we don't see a lot of that. Mostly what we see is people are entering the cloud to accomplish discrete business objectives, and it's usually around greenfield programmatic requirements or rethinking of how they do their business. And so it's a great change management opportunity to address business process reengineering and value add to the business and the mission area. So that's what we're really seeing predominantly in our environment. And I would say that we're making great strides across the board in each of our mission areas, and definitely with a focus on the overseas environment. We've got all of our email in the cloud. We've got several workflow and CRM tools that are in the cloud. And then we're kind of working through with our constituent customer bureaus how we can best support their future capabilities moving forward.
Okay, and let's move to Jamie Holcomb from U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Cloud strategy, portability among clouds, that whole interoperability question. What's your strategy for Cloud Smart?
The USPTO is set out on a large transformation objective. And of course, cloud needs to be part of that strategy. So we've actually taken our whole organization and shifted from project-oriented management into product-oriented management. And our product teams are making the business decisions on how to move out to the cloud smartly. And that would include not just operations and maintenance, but the refactoring that's been talked about in the prior two speakers. The fact of the matter is you have to figure out if your applications are cloud ready or even cloud capable. So often it's not. And to refactor the code may be more expensive than the actual business case to go out to the cloud. So you have to consider all those ingress and egress data usage questions, which heretofore just going to the cloud is not in and of itself the best thing. Those data costs, the data usage, may actually be more onerous out in the cloud than keeping it internal. So you're going to have to make those business case analysis each and every single product team. And based on a better, cheaper, and faster, you have to do it correctly. And so that's where we're heading as far as our smart strategy goes.
So you're not settling for any two of better, cheaper, faster. You want all three.
Exactly. Like water. We want it better, cheaper, and faster.
All right, good. And let's talk to industry a little bit. Melvin Greer from Intel Corporation, looking at the federal government, and it's pretty big, it's pretty diverse in terms of the missions and agency sizes and technical capabilities. What do you see as their main challenge, looking at it as a whole, for cloud migration in the next generation past simply email, so that agencies can have the agility to move from cloud to cloud with their workloads and not have to have versions for each and every cloud or each and every data center?
Yeah, there are a number of challenges. And in fact, we've seen some really great lessons learned with respect to how to move to the cloud smartly. Without question, this discussion about hybrid and multi-cloud strategy is important. I think we've heard a lot about smart cloud as it relates to whether or not we should forklift applications or rebuild applications completely in the cloud. But there is another aspect to smart cloud that we haven't talked about that is really quite important. And agencies are moving to an understanding of the use of the cloud for data storage, and the use of data as a data strategy is critically important. And so in many ways, smart cloud not only embodies how to move to the cloud, but how to operationalize the data that's in the cloud. And more specifically, how do we use cloud computing to help enhance our data science or our data strategy? And then significantly, along with that is, can we use cloud computing to drive adoption of artificial intelligence and data science in a way that we haven't before? Can we engage researchers? Can we engage third parties or industry in a way that we haven't before to make the cloud a smart place for people to be in a position to drive data science, data strategy, and AI capabilities? The core relationship between the data that's stored in the cloud and the use of cloud for operationalizing mission capabilities can't be understated. Our ability to use that data that's in the cloud is really a fundamental reason why going to the cloud is such a big deal, and the reason we moved from cloud first to smart cloud.
So in other words, it doesn't have to be a matter of worrying about the expense of pulling data back down if you can process it, use it, and it stays within the cloud. Is that part of what you mean?
I think that's part of it. Of course, anytime you put something in the cloud, there is a more important consideration about how to get it out. Do you get it out in the format that you put it in there, and can you get it at all? And so the important service level agreements with cloud service providers make that possible. And I think the main point that we want to emphasize here is that the ability to effectively use the data in the cloud for mission capabilities that extend into data science and artificial intelligence is really where the smarts in smart cloud really gets really bigger and more impactful to mission capability.
Okay, thank you. And then let's move to Troy Massey from Iron Bow Technologies. What do you see as the big challenge when you look across agencies, from your standpoint?
Yeah, so great questions all the way around so far, great answers all the way around so far. And part of the challenges, we're definitely seeing all of those challenges. And what it all comes down to is really with today's technology, we could move almost everything to the cloud. But the question is, should we? Right, that's the big question. Some data, it can go to the cloud. Some data, as Rocky said, can go to one cloud and perform better than in another cloud. So we need to be smart about which cloud it goes to. Some things, due to security, due to health care type data, maybe should never go to the cloud. But one of the biggest answers that was given so far is about egress. So we need to be able to analyze that data that's in that application and see how chatty that application is to see what it's going to cost for that application to live in the cloud. Now, that doesn't mean that it can never go to the cloud. If you have a data center issue that you need to move stuff to the cloud for a temporary burst, you just need to be aware of that financial implication of that temporary move. But it's about the education of your current environment before you move forward into an environment of a cloud type situation. Rocky hit it on the head with the idea of not everything goes to the cloud at first, because it just doesn't make economic sense to put something in the cloud you just bought a brand new server for, right? So you talk about the end of life and to support type of servers and move gradually to that cloud environment. But there needs to be this relationship between going to a commercial public cloud, AWS, Google, and Azure were all mentioned, and being able to bring it back down when needed, and be able to bring it to a different cloud when you're not satisfied with the current cloud. So that mobility factor is key in a successful cloud deployment.
So in the largest sense, then, the agency needs to keep control over its own assets in terms of how it deploys them and where it wants to deploy them.
They at least need to know the characteristics of each application, each workload.
Okay, on that note, we will take a short break. I'm your moderator, Tom Temin. This panel discussion is how a multi-cloud approach can help agencies meet the mission ones, sponsored by Iron Bow Technologies, Dell Technologies, Intel Corporation, and VMware here on Federal News Network.